What is going on, Canes fans? We are back with another Coast to Coast Canes post-game show on Mark Rogers TV, and we got ourselves in a little better mood today, don't we, Jordan?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's we played Central Connecticut Community College or something like that.
Pretty much.
And so win as expected. Wasn't a very tough game, but it just felt good to have the pressure taken off. You know, it's been a very difficult 3 weeks as a Canes fan to start off the season. So being able to have fun watching a Canes game again was really nice.
Yes.
Even though the stakes were low. Like, how fun was it watching Jake Garcia throw bombs to Jacoby George or, Romello Brinson's catch, or watching TVD, essentially have a perfect game, right?
Yeah. It's what we wanted to see. I mean, we know that we played an easy opponent, but the fact is guys made plays when their numbers were called, and that's what's important because, like we talked about right before we jumped on here, is a point I want Canes fans to be aware of here. Yes, it was a very, very poor team we played, but look at what happens when D. Wiggins got his shot. Look at what happens when he dropped his pass over the middle again, in comparison to a guy like Romello Brinson, who comes in and makes an insane touchdown catch as a true freshman. So the evidence, it's clear, bro. It's clear that these younger guys are better playmakers than the older guys.
I'm ready for it. I'd be a little bothered to see D. Wiggins or Mark Pope get opportunities over Brinson or Brashard Smith, especially. Jacoby George looked good too. Yep. To give the coaching staff credit, there's probably a reason why some of those guys are further down on the depth chart. But if anything, Brashard Smith, Romello Brinson, Keyshawn Smith, those guys are ready, man.
Absolutely. I mean, the opportunities don't always come for younger players, but when they do and they seize those moments, that's what's important. You can even struggle against a poor team. You can make mistakes against anybody. You're liable to make mistakes in football. It doesn't matter the opponent you're playing. So the fact that our guys truly made the plays is what was so refreshing. Honestly, that's the word I kind of had for today, was absolutely refreshing. And not only that, but we got to see again, like in the Oklahoma State bowl game in the second half, we got to see what our run game looked like while the deep pass game was going. And we see how much more productive that run game is when that's clicking.
Absolutely. Nice game from Cody Brown today. I think he showed that, he should be definitely getting more carries than he has in the last two games.
Yeah.
I always draw a blank when the live is on. When Don Chaney down with a knee injury, we have the ability with Cody Brown that we can split up those carries and not just give them all to Cam Harris, right?
Yeah. And that gives us more of a variety. That offers something that we haven't had. While these guys, are still traditionally what you could call power backs, Brown showed us that he can offer a little something different than Cam can occasionally.
Yep.
And I think it's important too to kind of weigh in the factors of what Thad could possibly do if we need him in games, especially to grind clock or to do anything like that. So, we've got quite the stable. I know we were worried after Chaney went down, but it appears that these guys are ready to pick up the pace, and we've got Rooster coming back soon.
Yeah. I think it's more of an indictment on the coaching staff than the players, right? This situation where we didn't think that we had a viable solution at running back after Don Chaney went down. And then you see Cody Brown get his opportunity, and he looks fine, to me, Cam was clearly the best back on the field today. But Cody Brown, it's not like he looked terrible. I think Brown will be just fine as a change of pace back until Rooster is, able to play again.
I want to know what these coaches are seeing in practice. What was the hesitancy to play these guys? Because this kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. Guys don't just make plays overnight. Guys earn, it's a process for these guys, especially getting to college. So these younger guys are clearly showing something in practice. So, the hesitancy is it's worrisome, Jordan, and let's just hope that when we go up against UVA next week, and if we run into any struggles, that our staff doesn't try to rely on those older guys to save them again.
Yeah, it's UVA will be a pretty good litmus test, in my opinion. I'm based in Salt Lake City. I watched Bronco Mendenhall just down the road at BYU for many, many years. We're going to be a much more talented team than UVA, but Bronco runs a tight ship. His teams are always disciplined. They're very disciplined. They make smart plays, right?
Yep.
So I think that'll be a great litmus test for where this team is at, right? If we come out and we're horribly coached, as we've seen in the first 3 weeks, we're going to struggle a little bit. But if we're starting to catch our stride, it should be a fairly simple game to take care of.
One of those matchups where we know we've got more talent than the team we're playing against, UVA, but traditionally, especially lately, they've given us problems. Now, the quarterback play that they've had, that worries me a little bit if we don't get our secondary in order. While we saw some productivity today, it's going to be nothing like we're going to see from ACC play. So I hope we kind of got some confidence, I guess I could say, built there.
Well, they're not going to run out number 36 again at QB. I can tell you that much. Like, we kind of dodged a bullet there last year.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I'm hoping that we can see a little more consistency. It seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but we probably won't have De'Aaron King next week.
Seems like it.
So it'll be a big test for, we can get into QBs right after this, but it'll be a big test for whoever is deemed the starter. I wouldn't be surprised to see us continue to run a 2 QB system, like an alternating system, until it becomes quite obvious. I thought, Tyler Van Dyke was a little more consistent today, but I don't know. Kind of my opinion on the two is Tyler Van Dyke has all of the measurables. He has a great arm. He does not make mistakes. He's like the ultimate game manager. But Jake Garcia has like a little bit of and not necessarily comparison like to how he plays, but he has some like Brett Favre in him, right? Like he's a little bit of a wild card. Like he has this wild upside to him.
Kind of a gunslinger mentality?
Yep. Jake is a gunslinger. He's going to make more mistakes than Tyler will, but I think ultimately if he pans out, the ceiling is going to be much higher with Jake.
I'll tell you what really impressed me was the touch that TBD showed on some of his passes today. It's one thing to hit guys wide open in an easy game, but it's a whole nother thing to show touch on difficult passes. And I really saw that from him, and it gives me hope for the Lashley offense in the future here. And like we talked about just briefly here, the deep pass game changed everything. The fact that we had that as a viable option today, it changed our entire offense. It made everything easier for everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. And, that is it's been a struggle the whole time De'Aaron King has been here. And, I don't want to take what De'Aaron King has brought to the team for granted. He's been a very stable presence in the locker room, to a locker room that desperately needed leadership and stability.
Yes.
I think De'Aaron King has provided that. I do think he's been a little closer to average than we assumed when he came here, right? Yeah. I think we were all assuming that we were getting a superstar, and he's been on the, he's not bad. He's an above average quarterback.
Oh yeah,
in college, absolutely. I'm not trying to talk bad on the guy, but I think he's closer to average than he is to Heisman.
Yeah, and especially when you got a guy out there like him who's worrying about injuries, who's coming off of an injury, and then just starts displaying a brand new injury during the game. So, it just the mental aspect of it for him was shot, I think. I think that hesitancy, that gun-shy kind of mentality, it's never good to have at quarterback, and I'm worried that that's kind of what's happening with King right now. Yeah. And to see the young guys show confidence, that's what really, really stood out to me. To show confidence, bro, that was important.
Yeah, well, so Mike Williams' comment, he just brought up Garcia can run the RPO. That's something I want to dig into.
Yep.
Because Rhett Lashley's offense is an RPO base, right? Yes. Almost everything we do starts with the RPO and then builds out from there.
Yep.
Okay. From what I saw today, I'm actually wondering if he'll watch the tape, even though I think we can all agree Tyler Van Dyke had a less sloppy performance, very tight and effective and efficient, right? I think, seeing how kind of slow he was, kind of looked like he had cement shoes a little bit while Jake, had his 45-yard run. It would not surprise me that if Rhett's looking through film and is thinking that he can do more with his offense with Jake at the helm for that reason. I don't necessarily think that is the be-all, end-all, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's a good starting point in the decision-making process. The fact that Jake can tuck it and run and showed a willingness to. That's been De'Ara King's problem. He was never willing to tuck the ball, even when it was the right read.
Yep.
He was willing to make the wrong read for whatever reason, man. I mean, I'm not in De'Ara King's head. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he consistently made the wrong read and refused to tuck the ball so maybe Jake's willingness will play a part in the decision-making factor.
I hope that throughout this week, especially with a short week coming up against UVA, that, one of these young guys really just continues to display that confidence and leadership to make it kind of clearer and clearer as time goes on who really the guy is. Because like you said, we can do this 2 QB thing for a little bit. I don't want to do it long term. I don't want to depend on that or have to try to go to the hot hand type of thing.
Yeah.
I want to find our starter while King is out, so we have our future kind of somewhat in place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of a precarious situation, right? In the transfer portal era, you hope that you're making the right decision, right? It's look at Ohio State letting Joe Burrow walk. And, Dwayne Haskins did win the Heisman, but Dwayne Haskins is hanging on for dear life in the NFL, whereas Joe Burrow is already a franchise cornerstone, right?
Yep.
So you hope that you make the right choice, but we're not going to get there's a very decent chance that the loser of this QB battle transfers in the offseason. That could end up being the right business decision. So we really need to be methodical in how we make this choice and be very confident in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point to make. Some guys simply aren't willing to wait, and especially a guy like – now, here's just a hypothetical, but you got a guy like Garcia, ultimately confident guy.
Yeah.
He believes in his abilities more than anybody else in the world, and rightfully so because he's shown that he can play.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to want to sit for very long or sit behind somebody. Yeah. He's the kind of guy, if TVD does win this job and he does propel us into the future properly, Garcia's the kind of guy I could see leaving. Now, if Garcia won the job or if it was a close battle still, I could see the guy sticking around for a little bit. I really could. Yeah. But if we find that QB1, we're going to see an ultimate decision be made at the end of the year.
Yeah, I love Jake as much as anyone. Like I said, I see more upside with Jake than I do Tyler. But, we have to remember, we weren't Jake's first option, right? He didn't commit here until after USC gave him the runaround, right? Until after USC just kept loading up on quarterbacks. And Jake is like, hey, I thought I was your guy. And they're like, you are our guy. Hold on, we're taking another QB.
Yeah. And
kept
making offers, and they took Miller Moss and made more offers.
Yep. I mean, they got Jackson Dart starting for him right now, who is a true freshman out of actually my hometown, just played down the road from me. So I agree with you. I'm sure Jake loves it here, but I mean, the dude's a winner, right? He was going to win the state championship at Valdosta, okay? They told him he couldn't play anymore, so he transferred to Grayson, and guess what? He still won.
Yep.
Wherever he goes, he just has that attitude, Yeah.
So that's learning those offenses and thriving in those offenses as a young quarterback, to me, was very important to see. It really showed his IQ for the game.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Tyler's definitely a little more polished right now. But if we're thinking about the future, polish right now does not equate to how they'll both play as juniors, right?
Yep.
So we can't be making the decision, hey, Tyler looks a little more polished right now. And, I can, from what I've said, I'm probably coming off a little biased. I don't mean to convey that, right? I'm open-minded. I'll support whoever. I want us to be very methodical with how we go about this. Polish is not everything. It's not. I mean, this season, if De'Aaron King is out long term, it's pretty much a lost cause, right? We have pretty much a lame duck head coach. We have a very old roster that will see a lot of turnover this season. I mean, if De'Aaron King is out, how much do we really have to play for, man?
It's
yes,
about playing for the future. That's what it's about. It's about playing for the future.
And so I don't want us to make a decision based on, hey, this guy's really polished today. The decision should be, who has a better chance of winning a championship in the next 3 to 4 years?
Yes. And that's being important to be able to understand and see that as a coach is a big deal. And I just want to say, Hurricane Logan, thank you very much for the $5 donation.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Here's a comment here. Regardless of competition today, our young guys' effort shows they deserve the field. Our staff must play the best game day players. Step up. I completely agree, Logan. Yep. These are younger guys. While they did play against a lesser opponent, they absolutely stepped up and took their opportunities and ran with it. Unlike a guy like D. Wiggins, who drops another easy pass like we saw today when he got his opportunity.
I want to say one word that goes along with what you guys are saying. Urgency. We saw guys playing with urgency today.
Yep.
It does not matter the competition level, okay? My biggest problem with the way that we performed at Alabama, with the way that we played against App State and the way that we played against Michigan State was a lack of urgency. It didn't seem like anybody cared, man. And when we lost, nobody cared. It's like, what is going on in our program that we lack the urgency? I mean, you got to hate losing more than you love winning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
We didn't see that hunger, though.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see a lot of guys from our first 3 games this season that really hated losing.
I saw the young guys go out there and compete. I mean, the true, genuine definition of the word compete. They went out and they did it. And that the future, I mean, we talked about it before, previous years even. We talk about how the young guys are the future and the future's bright. Well, here's the thing is that nothing is going to be bright unless they actually get the playing time they deserve.
Correct.
So the staff has a monumental task right now, and they have a golden chance to make something special happen after we started the season slow. Yep. This could be the ultimate turnaround if they want to do it right. Now, I'm not saying ultimate turnaround is necessarily, we're going to win double-digit games, all that.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying ultimate turnaround is get us ready for the future. Get us geared up so next year at week 1, we're ready to rock right from the start.
Well, let me ask you a hypothetical, okay? Because let's approach this from the angle of Manny Diaz saving his job, which seems unlikely to me at this point, but let's go down this road anyways. Would you, as an intelligent fan, right, would you be happier if we go back to status quo? So I'm talking the team looks and plays how it did last year and the last 3 games, but we peel off enough wins to win the Coastal Division, okay? So we're talking seniority rules. We're talking De'Aaron King. We're talking Mark Pope and D. Wiggins, right? Or would you be happy to see the youth movement, but by the end of the year, we are playing disciplined, sound, effective football, and you have genuine reason to be excited about next year? What would go further into saving Manny Diaz's job for you?
For me personally, it's about the future. It's all about the future. The team that we have currently right now, while we have talent, we're not a special football team right now. While we've got young guys who are special players that we can turn into a possible special football team, that's in the future. We got to take care of business as far as development. These guys, while they flashed and they showed some skill, it's about developing them through the rest of the season. It's about developing them through the rest of the off season next year. So there's got to be a commitment, I guess. That's the word I would say. There's got to be this commitment to the youth, and if we don't see that, then it is the status quo. We're back to just trying to skate by and beat mediocre teams in an effort of Manny Diaz to try to maybe win as many games as possible. If we won, like let's say hypothetically, if we won 1 or 2 less games this year, but played the youth and had them ready for the future, I would take that over the 1 or 2 extra wins that we might get luckily if we play the older guys.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is, we need to be smart enough to realize the ACC isn't that great this year, right? It wasn't great last year. We can almost win out in the ACC, right?
Yeah.
Like we did that last year. We went. What did we lose? 2 ACC games last season, and we only beat 1 team with a winning record. Like think about that. So we beat a bunch of loser teams and still went 6-2 in the ACC or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so like our conference schedule is not going to be that difficult. We need to be smart enough to understand what's actually happening, right?
Yep.
If we just have this same old song and dance and we go, 6-1 or 7-1 in the ACC, and we're like, yeah, okay, this is good. Does it really help the program moving forward?
Yeah, it's tough, man. To me, like if the focus isn't on the future, it's all for nothing. I mean, honestly, that's kind of my point of it. And Mo, thank you for the $5 donation. His comment here: TBD has a strong arm but can't move in the pocket. Sounds familiar. What do you think about that, Jordan?
That does sound familiar. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm open-minded. I was very impressed by both guys. I mean, it was Central Connecticut State University, but I mean, what are you going to do? They couldn't choose who they played this week. So both guys were very impressive. I'm very open-minded moving forward. But thank you for the donation, Mo.
Ohio Kane, thank you for the $5 donation too, man. Said glad we got the win. The true test is Thursday, and he nailed it. The true test is against UVA, getting back in ACC play against a team with lesser talent that we've had struggles against. So let's hopefully prove that we're getting past some of these points. The life that can be injected into this team by playing the youth could just be incredible. I mean, dude, what Brinson did today, that catch, that wasn't by accident. That's pure, utter skill, elite level skill. Guys don't just do that by accident.
Yep. Agreed. We have very talented. I mean, that's the whole reason you recruit at a high level, right? You recruit at a high level because you're getting the most talented players. You don't have to develop them for 3 years. We're not Boston College, We're not like growing these corn-fed linemen in a laboratory until they're juniors, right? Like we don't need to do that because we recruit at a high level. We're recruiting natural God-given ability, right?
Yes.
So put it on the field.
Yes. Athletes.
Yes. And you know what? Our coaching staff sucks at development, okay? So why do we even care about playing seniors anyway? Let's go just throw natural talent out there. We're not developing any talent anyway, so just throw the natural stuff out there.
See, that's what I don't get is what's the hesitancy to want to play guys who flat out show more potential? Like, I just don't get it. Like, and it came back to a lot of the time, they didn't know the playbook. They didn't know this or they didn't know that or the other. Little minute things that guys can actually work out on the field. Guys can improve on game day. They don't have to just do it at practice. So it shows me a very, very cowardly approach by our coaching staff to go the route that they went this year with these older guys who have proven that they simply are not capable. They're not going to win big for us, and they're not going to put up big stats for us.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah. So, I mean, what else? What do you think of Leonard Taylor, man?
I think he flashed, dude. I think he flashed, and I think it's been a shame that we haven't played him more this year, honestly. I don't know what our approach is. I don't know if they want to just, go the 4-game and red shirt route so we have him for the future more. I'm not sure. But the thing is Manny Diaz needs some success right now. If he can help us in the pass rush game and he can get a little pressure, dude, I'm all for putting him in there. He's a 5-star player, simply put.
Yeah, I mean, they were throwing some doubles at him, man. Like that's I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say with, playing a team like Central Connecticut State. I can't get that right. That's why I call them a community college. But it's a good sign when your 18-year-old dudes are getting double teamed, right?
Yep. Today is all we could ask for, right? I mean, honestly, like, I know that people want to downplay it, but I think it's, and while of course we can downplay it as well, but I think it's important for people to understand that in the game of football, you either make a play or you don't. It's that simple. Yep. If you have your number called, and it doesn't matter if it's against CCSU or if against Alabama, when your number is called, you need to make the play. We saw guys do that today. So just by that alone, I give our young guys a lot of props because they came in with heart and passion. And then the confidence displayed by the young quarterbacks as well, all of that mixed together. I'm telling you, man, I mean, if done properly, this coaching staff can get this future set up for us this year. So we have excitement, hope, and potential all evident going into the following season.
Yep. And then I just got a text message from Derek. He's ready for you to send that on Twitter if you can.
Okay, I'll send it right now.
Armando, thank you for the tip, man. We appreciate it. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's interesting to see how the coaching situation will play out. I don't know. How are you feeling about Manny? Does this change your mind at all? It doesn't for me.
No, not at all.
I know some people were kind of viewing this as a thing, but as I said last week, like, this game's a throwaway game, man. This game means nothing. We could have won by 1,000 and I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I mean, how shocked would you have been if you found out that I was the backup quarterback for CCSU, right? Like, who knows these guys? Where do they come from? I don't know.
It goes just back to the simple point, and like D. Rev Lee is saying, guys making plays. Yes, we as Canes fans, we often find things to cry about. We often resort to that because we end up seeing bad football. We end up seeing things that we don't want to see, or things that we've seen over and over again that don't work. So, I mean, I understand why some fans still have that hesitancy for sure. And I understand, Jordan, your point or your stance on it, and my stance is the same as well, that this doesn't change things for Manny Diaz yet. Now, next week, then we can start talking about possible changes. We can start talking about that hope that we might want to see. Because if we do it against UVA in a short week and they go and depend on the younger guys, that means something to me. That means that they're going to get their chance.
Yep. Is Derek ready?
Yeah, I sent him the link.
Okay, cool. I got to take a quick phone call really quick. I apologize, but it's come in 3 or 4 times. I need to take it real quick.
No problem. Yeah. Canes fans, guys in the chat here, I'd love to hear from you guys as to what really stood out to you today, and not just specific young players. What young player stood out to you and why? There was multiple instances. We saw Brashard Smith being utilized in the short pass game, which is something we've been wanting to see for a long time, honestly. He's a guy that you get the ball in his hands short, you get him in space, and he creates. And I'm not sure why the staff was so hesitant to put a guy like that out there when his speed is clear and it's evident. I mean, there's some things you can't coach. Brashard Smith has that elite speed that you can't coach. So I guess, as far as it's Brashard Smith, Romello Brinson, we talked about Taylor flashing. Taylor still is going to have ups and downs. It's very hard to play interior defensive line football in college compared to high school. So he's going to have some bumps and bruises. Expect to see that. But that doesn't mean that he's not worthy of getting snaps or that he's not worthy of getting the opportunities. The upside is absolutely there with him. Absolutely. And we've got Co streaming in right now. What up, boss?
Oh, man, a long day at the stadium, bro. But, kind of excited about what I saw as far as both quarterback plays. I don't know the stats. I didn't really look at the stats. Maybe you guys can tell me who finished with what. Ross, do you have the stats by any chance?
I didn't have the stats in front of me, but I'll tell you what, Co, they're flat out elite on both sides. I do know that. Those guys put up big numbers.
And one thing that people probably, not saying that they're going to forget about this, but man, TVD hit Wiggins and stride for probably a 70-yard touchdown, and he drops it, right? Yeah. So unfortunately, like, I don't know how the stats are, and then obviously then TVD had 2 sacks on that drive, but those 2 sacks, one of the sacks was pre-drop by Wiggins, but that second sack on 3rd down or whatever it was, that shouldn't have even been there because that should have been another 7 points.
Well, were you surprised, Derek? How shocked were you?
No, and again, I preface no, and I preface this all week. I don't care how good we look, we're still playing Central Connecticut State. But you might as well just say it's Bishop Sycamore. That's who we played today.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the young guys, and again, it's kind of hard to get super excited because the caliber of talent that we were playing just really wasn't up to par. So, as well as they did, and seeing Jacoby Jordan and Romello Brinson and all these guys, Thad Franklin and Cody Brown, and everybody scoring and running and passing and catching, like, you still weren't playing a team that has a great defense. And no disrespect to them, right? They're not on that level of like a D1 type school, right? Yeah. I think you'll get a better assessment maybe this Thursday. And I hate to say this, but I was kind of on the UVA bandwagon, seeing how they started out of the box. But now watching them the last couple of games, I don't think it's going to be that much of a contest. But again, it's still Miami, right? So who knows what's going to happen when we play them.
We always decide to make a game when it really shouldn't be a game. We always decide to play mediocre football against mediocre teams. Lionel Caballero, thank you for the donation, dude. I wanted to point that out here before we got going, dude. $19.99 donation. Thank you, dude. We truly appreciate it. And we appreciate the 103 guys that are in here watching us right now. So thank you, Canes fans, for tuning in. We just got done watching a beatdown against basically a JV team is what we played. In essence, is a JV team. But like here's something that we mentioned, Co, and you brought up the Wiggins drop. Guys made plays when they had the opportunities, and it was the young guys who did it. The older guys like Wiggins proved again that even when given the opportunities, they still can't make the big play.
Yeah, and something that I want to point out with, this is probably the first time in probably 2 seasons that I've seen the ball put on the money, like where receivers can catch the ball in stride. So when Jake first came in, he threw a ball low and I think behind to Cody Brown, but he made up for it. But after that, you really saw the rhythm, and you really saw how the ball was like kind of leading the receivers and letting them run underneath it and let them, take control of their routes. Rambo went up for a really nice 50-50 ball and came down with it, where that normally is just either an incomplete or a pick. So, the back shoulder pass that Jake threw to Romello, I thought was a thing of beauty. Being able to get your body and then get your arm down. He actually had his backside down as well, so it would have been a touchdown regardless.
Yeah.
But being able to see somebody throw the ball, and 2 guys throw the ball as well as they did downfield, it was really impressive. It kind of reminded me of the Craig Erickson, Steve Walsh, Gino Toretto type days, where you had quarterbacks that just can flat out sling the ball. And no disrespect to King, I always feel like there's 2 type of quarterbacks. Now, J-Man, let me ask you this.
Yep.
You have that pro-style, prototypical, drop-back passer, and a TVD, and a Jake Garcia. And you also have an athlete who can throw the ball. I think there's 2 different types of quarterback who plays college football, or even in the NFL per se. I look at somebody like Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback who can move in the pocket, who can make the throws. And I look at somebody like Lamar Jackson who is an athlete who can just throw the ball, right? Yeah. So I look at TVD and I look at Jake as being like true, legitimate quarterbacks, and someone like Derek King being more of an athlete who can just throw the ball.
Yeah. So, we kind of went into this a little bit earlier. I really appreciate the stability and leadership that Derek King has given to this team, right?
Yes.
Much needed.
We don't want to downplay that ever.
Yeah, last season could have been a disaster. But one thing I want to touch on, so Rhett Lashley's offense is based in RPO, right? It all starts with the RPO. De'Aaron King hasn't been tucking the ball, though. Even when it's the right read, he won't tuck the ball.
Yeah.
Like, he seems scared to run. I don't blame him. Our offensive line sucks. He doesn't want to get hurt again. He didn't want to get hurt last year. But, I mean, if he's not tucking the ball, he's not winning games for us with his legs, then what's the point?
The RPO just doesn't work if a defense can cheat every time and just basically assume that 90% of the time we're going to hand the ball to our running back, don't run an RPO. Start just running power handoffs, regular football, if that's what you're going to do.
Well, and when King tucks it, it's rarely designed, right? He's not tucking it on a read option. He's usually just scrambling out of the pocket when coverage, when the coverage is too tight. He's very, very rarely running the ball when it's designed for that, even when it's the right read. So I brought up this point to Ross a little earlier, is watching Jake tuck the ball on an RPO and run for 45 yards. I wonder if that will be in the mix when Rhett Lashley is balancing, do I want TVD, who maybe looks a little more polished, or do I want Jake, who kind of does more and, in my opinion, has a little higher ceiling?
So I would go this route. From what I saw today, and it necessarily may not work all the time, but the 2-quarterback system, what they did today, and again, it still needs to be understood that we played Central Connecticut State, but I think a 2-quarterback system can be beneficial. TVD literally had and again, you look at some of his stats, right? Like, again, you throw a 5-yard, screen pass to Bashar Smith, who takes it 75 yards. You throw a little screen pass to Cam Harris, who takes another 70 yards. So your stats are going to be a little bit inflated, but at the same time, you made the right read. You made the right play. So you can't penalize like a TVD for making the right play and seeing, a back or a receiver making their play, right? I'm a big proponent of you do your job. Meaning, if I'm a quarterback, my job is to execute my call. Go through my progressions, catch my read, get the ball to where it needs to be. But then your receiver, your back, whoever, they need to do their job. The O-line, they need to do their job. So I think today you saw a lot of things gel together. I do like, Ja'Kai Clark at center. I don't know the status. I mean, there's some talk maybe Corey Gaynor's done for the year. If that's the case, listen, Ja'Kai played really well. I think the whole O-line played really well today. But again, we only played Central Connecticut State, right? So I keep prefacing that because I don't want to get, hey, we won 69-0. Well, theoretically, you probably could have put up 85 points on this team very easily. So I do respect the fact. Now, if it was Jimmy's letting the dogs loose and just whatever happens, right? I think Manny played a little bit of sportsmanship and said, hey, you know what, we'll just, especially when you're getting Peyton Matoka in there, you're getting Ryan Rizek in there, and someone just put up a great thing, like Chase Smith was all over the field today, and so was Jalen Harrell. Like, if you watch, Harrell was like coming like lower into boom, like he looked like he was like a headhunter. So these young guys, and I really was impressed with Leonard Taylor, finally being able to see him on the field. Like, he was wreaking havoc on that O-line. He was getting through the gaps. He had a tackle for loss, but again, it's still, again, I'm gonna say it again, Central Connecticut State, right? Let's see what happens when you open up ACC play next week. And because as good as I thought Virginia was, they don't look impressive as they did the first couple of weeks to me. Or did Wake Forest, are they really a solidified team moving forward? So those are the two avenues that I want to see. But if you can go in Thursday night and you can sit there and maybe get that W, whether it's a close game or you can win outright, a win is a win, especially starting ACC play, and I think that would really help your momentum. And then you have the Carolina game. So I'm waiting to see. Those two games are really, I think, going to determine how the season goes for the University of Miami.
Yeah. Dude, and like you said, man, the young guys, it's not just we spent a lot of time on here praising young guys on offense. The young guys on defense showed up today. They absolutely showed up today. And if guys are doing this in a game, even though it's CCSU, they're flashing something in practice then. They're not just dead weight in practice and then all of a sudden showing up in a game out of nowhere, especially freshmen, redshirt freshmen, true freshmen. Guys don't just do that randomly. So there's got to be something the staff's seeing. And me and Jordan talked about it too. Why the hesitancy then? Why wait to play more skilled players?
Yeah, Jordan, and I think you and Ross kind of just hit that on the head because I'm a firm, and Jordan, we talked about this last year and stuff.
Yep.
I'm a firm believer you play your best player regardless of age, you got to play whoever your best is on the field. And if that means, someone like Leonard Taylor is better than a Jordan Miller or, whatever, then you play those guys. If you think Jalen Harrell, there's still some guys on defense that I don't know why they're still playing. It was nice to see Pope. It was nice to see Pope playing on the defensive side of the ball. He did go for like a big hit and got knocked down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw that on did you guys watch the game at all? Were you able to watch it? I think it was on the computer or something.
Yeah.
So, but again, if that's somebody who took himself as like a selfless player and said, I'm going to put the team first. I'm not getting into the rotation on the offensive side of the ball. Let me go see if I can help out in the DBs. It was the same thing like Sam Shields did years ago. Sam Shields, he came in as a high 4-star recruit, receiver, couldn't catch a lick. So look, he went to the defensive side of the ball and made a heck of a career in the NFL.
Yeah.
Not saying that Mark Pope's going to be the same thing as Sam Shields, but again, he's making himself an opportunity to at least get on the field and play. And to me, that just speaks to his character and maybe his maturity in order to move on, instead of transferring, he's looking at a different route to stay at the University of Miami.
Yeah.
I give him a lot of respect for taking that step this late in his career when he could have just simply stuck with what he did, maybe realized football wasn't his future, got his degree from Miami, and just went on with life. That's fine. But the fact that he wants to try something new to help this team out, I give him props for that, dude. I mean, just willing to do it alone, whether it's successful or not, props to him for just doing it.
Yeah. Jordan, what were you overly impressed with? Jordan, what were you overly impressed with today? What do you really like, or what did you see today that stood out?
So it was the tenacity of our young guys. They looked hungry, man.
Okay.
When was the last time you watched a Miami Hurricanes team that looked hungry? It's been a minute for me. I can't say really any of the games last year. Anytime it was a big game last year, we showed up flat.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It could be recency bias, but urgency and hunger and that desire have really been a problem under the Manny Diaz tenure. I mean, it might even be Notre Dame 2017 the last time we looked that hungry. But I don't know, man.
Yeah. Ross, what do you think of our young receivers and how they stepped up today?
I have been a huge proponent of getting Romello Brinson on the field from the jump. He's a guy that I have labeled as absolutely elite at basically everything he does. He offers elite level skill, route running, catching. As we saw today, the utter playmaking ability is just insane with that one-handed TD catch. And then a guy like Brashard Smith, a guy with speed that you can't teach. There's no reason to hold a guy back like Brashard Smith. You throw him out there, freshman, sophomore, junior, doesn't matter. You find a way to use that speed. And actually, I made a comment about this on Twitter last night, and it was in regards to the Fresno State and UNLV game I was watching about how well Fresno State was taking short passes and turning them into big plays. And I was saying I would love to see the Canes do that. Well, you know what? We went and he actually showed a little bit of that today, so I was glad to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, so where do you guys think we go from
here?
And
that's an interesting point because I mentioned before. Oh.
You go ahead. Coach.
As far as Thursday night or as far as quarterback play? You talking about quarterback play or are you talking about just in general?
In general. I mean, what does the rest of the season look like? Like, are we able to turn the page here or is this – I don't know. Is this the start of something new or is this just kind of back to status quo on Thursday?
Okay, so let me piggyback off of Ross's thing about Romello. I really think he can turn into another Andre Johnson. He's got the frame. He puts a little bit more weight on him. I think he literally can turn into another Dre, right? Moving forward, again, I still want to see how you respond against a Power 5, and an ACC opponent in Virginia. If you come out with the same type of, like your word, tenacity, if you came out with the energy and you light up Virginia, great. But then I want to see how you follow that up with North Carolina. I think those are our two big games on our schedule because the Coastal really is yours for the taking for the most part.
Yeah.
So I think you really got to get past the next two games. And once you get past the next two games, and my honest opinion, I think King's done for the year. I saw him today, the way he was holding his arm and he was in some type of brace. I don't see him next week the way that they played today. I would be appalled by you giving him back the job. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
absolutely. Co, you being at the game today, what did you see from Thad Franklin? What did he show you something that impressed you at all today?
I mean, obviously he runs hard, right? And I actually liked him. I liked him running harder than I liked Cody Brown. I thought Cody was a little timid at times. I thought Thad came in there with a purpose. He came in there with the mentality like I'm going to score. I'm going to break tackles, and you saw that. You know, he had some nice runs. The old line opened up some holes. Again, I still go back to it was still Central Connecticut State, right? So you got to take that for what it's worth. But the way that he ran the ball, he protected the ball when he was getting hit. I like the way he ran. Now, don't forget, you know, obviously Cam had a phenomenal game. You know, Cody Brown played good. Thad played good. But you also get Jalen Knighton back coming this week, right?
Yes.
So how does he get mixed into the fold? And then if you saw what they did today with like a little jet sweep to Mike Harley to open up the game, like the creativity was there today. Get your guys, get your playmakers the ball, get them out in the open field, let them use their speed. Again, a la Brashard Smith. And again, you can do the same thing with Jalen Knighton, right? So it's going to be interesting to get somebody like Jalen. Yeah. Now, what I saw from Thad again is the same thing that I saw from Chaney. And again, like Chaney's down right now, but man, you see that burst in Thad and you see that power in Thad. So that might be something to watch moving forward, and how much more playing time that he gets.
Yeah.
Something to think about, guys. Just something to be excited about here. Think about the possibilities of Rooster and Brashard Smith being on the field together at the same time. Think about what we can do to find mismatches and manipulate the defense with that kind of speed. We can have them each going different directions, basically, and throwing the defense off Mattingly. Yep. We can have them running routes on the same side of the field and separating late. Yep. We can do all kinds of stuff with them. We can even the screen pass game becomes something that we could actually start to maybe utilize more.
Yep. And, you know, when you're getting athletes like that are, you know, stretching the field horizontally, a guy like Keyshawn Smith, who is an absolute burner when he's running vertically, you just can't stop that, man. I mean, how do you cover the field sideline to sideline all the way back to the end zone? You know, and we're getting the type of athletes that really make that almost impossible. You know, I would love to see, you know, Smith, Rooster, and Brashard Smith, Keyshawn and Brashard Smith, all on the field at the same time, man. That's the type of stuff that really just flummoxes defenses. There's not really anything that you can do to counter that with coverage. You know, essentially your only option is to sack the quarterback, right? Because you can't cover the entire field. It just doesn't work that way.
And if you watch the quarterback play too, they did get the ball out pretty quick. You know, I think they were really looking more of like let's protect. And how do you protect a bad O-line, right? As a quarterback, you get the ball out quick. It protects your O-line. So I do like, and I love the ball placement. Like if you look at that first TD by TVD to Mike Harley, it was literally outside. Nobody else was getting to it.
Yep.
You know, the back shoulder throw by Garcia, like the throws were on the money. Like there really wasn't. I think TVD hung one up to Romillo earlier that was potentially going to get intercepted. But for the most part, I would say 98% of the balls were literally on the money. Yeah. They were dimes. And that's something that we haven't seen in quite a long time. Yeah.
Just piggybacking on what you said, I think the almost touchdown to Charleston Rambo, that one got hung up there a little bit too much. That was a really great play positioning by Rambo. In more than a good throw, in my opinion. But that was really, as you said, that was about it from Tyler. And then, Jake had that one that almost got picked off that he had a little too much air under it. Other than that, though, I'm 100% with you, man. We had some very accurate QB play, and it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Moving forward, I think for Manny's sake, you got to play your best players. You literally got to take the seniority out of the equation. If your younger guys are ready to go, then take the handcuffs on them and let them play. I think your job's in jeopardy. But what I saw today with the offense, and again with the defense, someone like James Williams coming out with a nice interception. Defense was flying around. They were.
Oh, did we lose him? You're breaking up, Co.
Can you hear me or no?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, but you're back. We got you. Might have spoke too soon on that.
Yeah, might have spoke a little too soon. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I don't know. So Ross, until we get Co back, so let's say that you have to make the decision, okay? You have to make the TVD versus Jake decision. What are you doing next week?
Next week, specifically because we're playing an ACC opponent, I wouldn't mind having TVD get the reins, honestly. It wouldn't bother me one bit if that's the way the staff decided to go. Now, I mean, if Garcia's the pick, I won't be shocked. But I personally, I would probably go with TVD in that game. I would keep the competition going. I would make these guys prove it every single week. But, and of course that depends on how practice goes this week as well, too. If TVD doesn't practice well, then it is what it is. Absolutely. But if guys are practicing like I think they are and they're showing what I think they're showing, yeah, I'm comfortable with TVD.
Okay. Yeah, so Co, sorry, we lost you for a minute, so I just tried to switch it up a little. Yep, you're back.
Am I back?
All
right.
Yeah, so I was asking Ross, if you have to make the decision, I know you mentioned earlier that you were a fan of the 2 QB system, and I think that's, a great thing as well. If you had to make the call, though, just picking one to start for Virginia, you going TVD or Jake?
I'm going 9. I'm going 9. I think, I think Jake's going to be a good quarterback. There's just something about being in the system for a whole year.
Yeah.
The playbook, understanding that type of thing, playing against a defense for a year. I think you go with TVD. The good thing that it is with Garcia, if there's any type of struggle, then you can kind of flip-flop them and see how it unfolds.
Yep.
What do you guys think about the tackling today? What did you guys think? Do you think that we were showing better form? We were wrapping up better?
We played Central Connecticut State.
Yeah, I was going to say the targets were moving a little slower this week. The wrapping up wasn't as hard to do with slow targets, man.
But
sorry, guys, I just saw my window going nuts.
No worries. But what I even said it earlier. They gang tackled. There was a lot of people flying around to the ball. There was multiple people around the ball. So for me, it looked like they played a lot better than they did last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's to be expected, though. I mean, if we didn't play better than last week against Central Connecticut, then heads would need to roll immediately. So, you say, hey, just so you know, don't bother driving back to the campus because your office is going to be locked,
So, J-Man, I have to talk to you off air about something.
Okay.
An individual came up to me and made a comment about your boy Marsh.
Okay, I'll have to – yeah.
I just want to give you a heads up on that. You might know who I'm talking about, but just want to kind of give you a little bit of teaser on that one.
So I see a comment here about how gang tackling is good. That's an improvement. What do you guys think about that comment? Even if we're not making individual tackles, having the team working as a unit is what's going to be important going forward, in my opinion. We don't have elite players at certain positions right now. It's just the way it is. We don't have elite depth, especially on defense at certain positions. But we do have the chance to have these guys play better as a unit. And maybe a Chase Smith, maybe he earned more snaps now, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, I said it earlier, Yeah, like what I saw on the field today was a lot of gang tackling. It just seemed like the guys were cohesive. They were all on the same page. They all wanted to get there. They wanted to get it to the ball. Like you said, Ross, whether or not it was an individual, type thing, or if it was multiple people, it definitely was improvement from what I saw over the last couple of weeks.
Yep. I agree, man. And let's see, Latisse, JP, y'all tripping. Garcia got a higher ceiling than TVD. That's what I was saying earlier, man. I agree with Derek and Ross that I think TVD showed more polish today. But to me, I think Jake. It's early. It's early. Anything can happen between these two. But if I was a betting man, I would bet that Jake gives us a better opportunity to win a championship while in the next 4 years. There's just something about Jake, man. He has this quality. He has this game breaking quality that you like. Anything can happen. I believe anything can happen when he's on the field. But Tyler seems like a much more like polished, composed, stereotypical QB. He's the prototype, right?
The way I see it is, while Garcia has the brighter future and the higher ceiling, it doesn't necessarily mean he offers the most talent going into this game against UVA. Yep. That's where the coaching staff's going to have to weigh the decisions in practice, basically. We don't see what goes on at Greenfield.
Yep.
I do truly believe that Garcia is the future, and I believe he has the higher ceiling. But maybe, just maybe, TBD shows that he's more ready to play early this year than Garcia does.
Yep. I think that's fair.
It's going to be an interesting thing moving forward, right? So if King is out for the season, let's play hypothetical, right? Let's just assume that he's done for the season. If you look at TBD, you look at Jake, and you can't go off of what we saw today. Would that be a fair assessment? You guys both agree with that? You can't go off of today.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to a couple things. What is the film study room like? And to me, if I'm Rhett Lashley, if I'm Manny Diaz, when they're in the film room, and they're breaking down defenses, maybe they have like some pop quizzes, and they test. They're testing TVD, they're testing Jake on what do they see from a defense perspective, where's your hot route, blah, blah, blah. Because I think a lot of it necessarily doesn't have to be talent, and I think they both have tremendous amount of talent, but I think it also needs to be up here and ahead as well. They have to be mentally prepared to handle that position and making the right reads and making the right calls. But then you throw the intangibles in there, right? Like, I'm not sure if Jake is a little bit more, light on his feet, to tuck and run, to get you that extra 3-4 yards. I don't know if TVD has that extra, 6-7 yards on his arm to get the ball down the field. So it's going to be interesting to see moving forward. And I said this to somebody earlier today, J-Man. Why not? Because I don't want to go into spring ball and say, okay, well, now we have a quarterback competition. I would already have that solidified forward going to 2022, and then going, and seeing what we have. Now, having said that, does that create an opportunity for one of the kids to say, well, I'm just going to go hit the portal if I'm not starting?
Yeah, that's kind of what we were touching on earlier is, in the transfer portal era, these kids have every reason to be quick to make that decision, there's plenty of Power 5 teams that are going to look at our QB situation and be like, I'll take either of those guys, Miami, you take your pick, I'll take the other one, because they're both supremely talented, right? So how much, I asked Ross this earlier, but Derek, how much does that play into your decision-making if you're the coach? Are you thinking about the immediate future? Are you thinking about who's better right now? Or college football is about projecting, right? When you're recruiting a high school kid, you're projecting what they'll look like in 4 years. Are you taking that approach with these QBs? Are you saying, what will Jake and Tyler look like respectively in 2023 or 2024? Or are you just playing who's better right now? And taking that transfer portal thing in mind.
I think that's kind of a two-part question if you think about it, though, right? Because, if you say, I think TVD is good for game management, but I think Jake is our future. And then what happens is TVD says, well, I'm going to hit the portal. And then what if Jake goes down? Well, you really have someone like Ja'Cory Brown coming in, which I don't think is necessarily a great answer, you know? So to me, it's going to be interesting to see how people got, because they both show that they have the it factor.
Yeah.
I wonder what the it factor determination will be.
You guys are frozen.
I wonder what the staff and Lashley specifically, I wonder what his it factor really is this week that he wants to see to make his determination. You know, there's always something that one quarterback does that may be a little different than the other quarterback or offer a little more upside than the other quarterback done. And I'm just kind of curious as to what that it factor will be for Lashley this week. Do you guys think it's going to be mostly IQ? Is it going to be physical based? What do you guys think?
Well, once again, it's an answer where what should happen probably won't be what will happen, right? Because we have a head coach who's fighting for his job. Okay. If it's me, you know, I'm someone who I see more upside in the way that Jake Garcia plays. You know, he's quicker. I feel like the RPO will be more effective, right? I think he's a more well-rounded player. We got to remember, though, Manny Diaz is in a situation where he's playing for however many millions of dollars he gets paid a year. You know, he's playing for his job, for his livelihood, for his career, right? So I ultimately think that it'll be Tyler that starts next week for that reason. I do think Tyler is going to give you a better chance to win on Thursday.
Can I comment on, someone made a comment about the defense did something right because they kept them to 0, right? Well, remember, they did miss a field goal, like a 20-yard field goal at the end of the game, you know. So, yeah, the defense did something right. But, you know, Central Connecticut State did the same thing that Miami did against Clemson. You know, let me just kick that 3 points. Let me just try to get that 3 to get on the board, right? So, yeah, the defense did a great job, but they should have given up 3.
Yeah.
You know, there was a comment in here by American Gamer 21 that stood out to me, and it's something that I've actually thought about quite a bit. What about playing more defensive schemes and more defensive setups with no linebackers? What if we go with just safety striker position? I mean, why not use that 100% and that athleticism?
100%, because your linebackers are trash, right? And I say that in a positive way, but like they're trash. Sam Brooks looked pretty decent late into the game, but again, like we played Central Connecticut State. I don't know how many times we say that.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't see anything from 17. I don't see anything from 44. 11, I didn't really see 11 too much on the field today.
Yeah.
Tyreek Austin-Cade looked, you know, he looked like he was flying around, you know, towards the end of the game. You know, Sam Brooks looked really good. But I'm a proponent, like, again, if you don't need your linebackers are undersized and they're not as fast as some of your other guys, then I'm all for running like a 407 and just, you know, listen, get your best players on the field.
Yep, agreed. I mean, that's the way that you win, right? Good coaches get creative when it comes to getting their best players on the field, right? And so if you are, you know, when it comes down to brass tacks, if you're like, hey, James Williams is just a much better football player than Wayman Steed or, you know, Jennings, then throw him out there, right? And he doesn't even have to play linebacker. Like you guys said, 407, right? So, you know, throw out the Cam Kinchins and you know, put them on
Chase Smith. Like bring your young guys. Bring the Chase Smiths out there, you know.
Yep.
Oh, we lost him again?
Yep, I think so. But, you know, just back to what I was saying, good coaches.
Whoever that guy would be, whoever the other guy would be, that's who you use.
Yeah. I mean, good coaches aren't afraid to reinvent themselves, right? Like Nick Saban is the defense guy, okay? Well, how many starting quarterbacks does he have in the NFL right now? Just from the last 3-4 years, right? There's 3 teams that are starting his QBs, right? Are they all in the same division? No, the Eagles. But anyways, like, you know, we can't be afraid to
just so you know. 2.
Wait, what?
Only 2. Only 2. I'm only telling you there's only 2 starting quarterbacks. Yeah, but 2. 2 is on IR, so only 2.
That's right. Hey, you're welcome for that, by the way, guys. I'm a Bills fan, so
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So You know,
Well,
like,
anyway, listen.
Saban's
I just pulled.
reinvented himself.
I just pulled. Yeah, look, I just pulled into the crib. You know, again, long day at the Rock. I've been there since 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
You guys, and
Yeah, his is breaking up, bro.
I think we all know what he's saying, though.
Yep. We'll catch you later, Co.
Yeah.
All right, we got that one later there. All right, so back to your point here about playing, you know, this idea of having no linebackers on the field. Kind of, it intrigues me a whole lot for the simple fact that I saw the athleticism today from our young guys, and I saw guys flying around. And to me, a big thing in the new era is sideline to sideline speed. That is what really is changing defenses and allowing them to be part, or not part of, but adapt to the spread offense era.
Yep.
The more we try to kind of lean on or resort to these linebackers that simply aren't athletic and not getting the job done, the slower our defense will be as a whole.
Yeah. My one worry will be tackling, right? Tackling has been an issue. Throwing more small guys out there, just on paper, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to the individual, right? But on paper, that has to be a part of the thought process, right? If you're taking out your dudes that weigh 240 pounds and you're placing them with a guy that weighs 205 pounds, you know, and tackling has been an issue, you know, like, you're just going to have to see how that plays out, right?
Good coaches adapt, dude. I mean, that's just the way it is. They adapt, and they have a flexible approach to how they go on a week-to-week basis. A guy, like you mentioned, Saban, things can happen even within his own team that we're not aware of, and he makes those changes in-house behind the scenes, and and it shows up on the field. That's where you really see it. It's not about going to the press and telling them what you're going to do. It's not about getting the fan base hyped up. It's about taking care of business behind the scenes and having the product on the field reflect that. Yep,
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, is there anything else left to cover? I think I'm good. I mean, how much can you talk about Central Connecticut State?
Yeah, I mean, we hit on the points here. The young guys showed up like we thought they were going to. This is what Canes fans have been wanting to see. Young guys get the opportunities. They got them, and they played well. That's all we can ask for, regardless of whoever they are. They made the plays. And I'll tell you what, that Brinson touchdown, I don't care if that's against CCSU. I don't care if that's against Louisiana State. I don't care if that's against Bama. That is an elite play no matter what. And it's got me excited, man.
You know what? If he did that in his backyard against his little brother, it'd still be on Sports Center.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the greatest catches I've seen this season, hands down, and one of the best catches I've seen from a Canes player in a couple years, no doubt about it. And this is from a freshman, guys. A freshman did that. So we, Canes fans, bust out your chest a little bit and feel good about it. We all sat here and said the youth needed to play because they were better, and we were all right. We were all right about that.
And imagine how good these guys are going to look under Lane Kiffin next year. Oh, God. I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
That's a hell of a conversation to end this one, huh?
Yeah, right.
Well, man, Thank you, Canes fans. Thank you for tuning in, man. We had over 100 fans in here pretty much the entire night watching us. It was against a kind of a small opponent, CCSU, but we took care of business, and we've got some things to hopefully lean on and look forward to in the future. So, Canes fans, thank you again for joining us. And always, it's all about the U.
Yep. Take care, guys. See ya.